I'm remaking this series as one video to collect all the information here. For those who aren't aware, for some reason a lot of new supercar companies just love shoving LS engines and calling it a day. As to whether or not this actually means they're supercars and not just overglorified kit cars, I'll leave that for you guys to decide. Moving on with the video, the first car on this list is the Arash AF8, which uses a bone stock LS7 7-liter V8. Yes, that means it only has 505 horsepower, which is a lot, don't get me wrong, but it's uncreative as hell to just take an engine, put it in your car, and then just be like, you know what, like I said, that's more or less a kit car, like let's be real here. In regards to its design, it kind of even looks like one, it's very uninspired and bland. Fortunately, that is not Arash's only car. They have the Arash AF10, which looks very beautiful. It's very simple, not over-designed, not overly edgy and all the other crap like most modern hypercars are. Yes, this one's more of a hypercar, but I'm just shoving it in this list, okay? The lowest model uses an LS7 engine that's been tuned to 550 horsepower, and it costs 350k euros. It does come with a supercharged 900 horsepower LS9 that is assisted by 4 electric motors for a grand total of 2,080 horsepower, and that costs 1.1 million euros. Arash AF8. The Arash AF8 uses an LS3 6.2 liter V8. Its stock engine is 430 horsepower and they supercharged it to 500 horsepower, so yay, at least they did something to it. It is made of graphene though, which is a very strong material, and I think that's really cool because it makes the car unique and it sets it apart from your average run-of-the-mill supercar that uses LS engines, because trust me, there are a lot of them, and we're gonna keep moving on. The Dragon Spider, LS3 6.2 liter V8, they left it bone stock at 430 horsepower and it costs 125 grand for a finished build. To be fair, it does have like an F1 for the road kind of inspired design, but you could get other cars that have similar design cues like the Aero Atom for cheaper. A Falcon F7. This car uses an LS7, surprisingly enough, because it's called F7, and the LS7 obviously has 505 horsepower. They did tune it to 620 horsepower, and they also offer a very high-end model with 1100 horsepower using a twin turbo. Also, by the way, America, we suck at designing rears because I don't like the look of this rear. It's like they took a Corvette, shoved it together with a Celine S7, and shoved it together with a Ford GT. It's like every American supercar just came and had sex, and that's this car. That's what happened. Anyways, moving on. Hennessey Venom GT. In Hennessey's case, he didn't even trust American design. He just straight up took a British design for the exterior instead. And at least for the interior though, it is still very much American. Now the Hennessey Venom GT's engine, I still don't know what it is to this day because there's so many different numbers and so many various sources. You'd have to be the owner of one to tell me the truth of what it is. Some sources say it's an LSX, which is a 7-liter V8. Hennessey himself has said that it's an LS2 or LS7 on multiple occasions, so when the person who made the freaking car isn't even sure of what engine it is, I'm not even sure of what engine it is. All I do know is that the last model of the Venom GT made 1,451 horsepower and it uses some type of LS engine, and it doesn't really matter because it's powerful as hell. And this car is probably the most well-renowned on this list, and it's probably the one known for starting the overglorified kit car debate, since it not only uses an LS engine, it also ripped its design from a pre-existing car, being a Lotus Exige that's just been stretched. Although when it comes to original design, I can see why some companies just want to take a miss on that, because it does come with some strange results, like what happened with Canada's supercar, the HTT Plethora LC750. The LC750 gets its name for having a 750 horsepower car. It uses an LS9, which is a 6.2 liter supercharged V8, and in all honesty, Canada, you guys did pretty good. It has a really good top speed. I think it's around 250 miles an hour. What does bug me are its rear lights, because they look like bug eyes, and it looks like it was designed by some kid who loves playing with Hot Wheels cars. But the front of the car looks really sharp, and the side of the car looks really nice too. Honestly, I think Canada, if HTT is still around, they should just rework the back's design. Moving on to a Chinese car, the Icona Vulcano Titanium Prototype. So the Icona Vulcano now uses a hybrid V12. Prior to that setup, it used a 670 horsepower modified LS9, and they barely modded it from its stock 638 horsepower, but you know, I'm glad they at least went on to get an original engine of their own, and that's probably, to me, the happiest ending for the cars in this list, because sometimes they just want to showcase a really unique designer concept, but they need an engine to get their car moving, since there's so many freaking shell cars these days. That's a video to itself, by the way. So to at least get a moving car, they're like, hey, you know, let's just use an LS engine for now until we get the money to research and design a true engine of our own. So for a Chinese company, these guys actually went above and beyond, which is rather surprising considering I'm Chinese myself and I've lost faith in Chinese companies when it comes to creativity. So I'm glad they at least moved on. the Lucara L148. The Lucara L148 just uses an LS7 and they kept it bone stock, and there's not really much else to say here. The car looks like a whale. It looks kind of strange in design. The Maserati Avantra. The Maserati Avantra is another success story. Originally it started off as an LS7 7-liter V8, but they eventually went on to make their own naturally aspirated, fully made in-house 751 horsepower engine, and the car is Italian design. Again, I'm very proud that they actually went on to design their own engine. The Mazda MT900 and MT900S Photon, LS1 5.7 liter V8 or LS6 5.7 liter V8. Later models eventually moved up to using an LS7 7 liter V8. Now, as for tuning, they added a whole 5 whopping horsepower to the LS1. It went from 345 to 350. The Mazda Landshark. Despite saying Mazda in its name, it was actually made by Intense Automotive Design. It uses a twin-turbo LS7 that makes 2,500 horsepower. Now, it claims to have a top speed of 305 miles an hour, but it was never proven or shown anywhere. It's supposed to be in the Bonneville Speed Week of 2009, but I don't think it ever actually showed up to it because, again, there's no footage of it. It's supposed to do 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. It's supposed to only weigh 1,898 pounds despite having multiple fuel tanks. The Onyx Sazon. This Turkish supercar just uses a bone stock LS7, so it's just another supercar that once again uses bone stock LSs with. Anyways, a savage rival. This car was made by the Netherlands. It uses a tuned LS9 that makes 670 horsepower, much like the Icona Vulcano prototype uses. Did they have each other on speed dial? Probably. The Sin R1, which was developed in the United Kingdom and uses an LS3 engine that makes 444 horsepower. I believe the car was actually made in Bulgaria, and it costs around $195,000. Now, to be fair, it does have a full carbon fiber design and it includes a roll cage. Its appearance is, again, rather weird like a lot of other cars in this video, but you know what, everyone has their own taste. Another car, Ultima GTR. So this one is actually a kit car, but at least it's straight up honest about that, and it exclusively recommends using LS engine, which is why it's on this list. It's a heck of a lot cheaper than the majority of the cars on this list, since it's honest about just being a kit car, and it's not trying to rebrand and resell itself as an originally designed supercar. Like, no, that's probably the most upsetting thing about this video is how some of these companies overcharge for their cars way too much. The Vencer Sarff, a Dutch supercar with a 6.3 liter V8 that makes 622 horsepower that was tuned by Hennessey. Just looking at its specs, I would assume that they took a 6.2 liter LS3 and then supercharged it and then bored it out more, so it got a little bit more displacement. Because it can't be an LS9, because the LS9 bone stock made 638, so it'd be a miracle if you somehow actually lose horsepower in the process of boring the engine out. Anyways, SSC Ultimate Aero TT. So, I'm gonna finish this video series off on a good note by talking about the 2008 world record holder for world's fastest production car. This car is really forgotten by modern people nowadays because of the Bugatti Veyron and how it kind of just overshines anything. But during the top speed wars, there would always be like independent tuning companies that would make cars that would temporarily get crazy results, kind of like how the Celine S7 has a similar story to that, and technically I would say Hennessey is. That's a story for another time, but let's talk about the Ultimate Aero TT. The TT uses an LSX V8, and the LSX is from a Corvette C5R race car. Now, they did bore out the LSX from 6 liter to 6.3 liters, and then they turbocharged it. The result was that it made 1,183 horsepower and weighed 2,750 pounds or 1,247 kilograms. The VMAX that was achieved by this car was 255.83 miles an hour. The highest top speed it actually achieved was 257.11 miles an hour. SSC continued to produce the Ultimate Aero for years to come with several other models including the XT, and those models actually no longer use Chevy based engines. Instead, they use a fully built in-house 7 liter SSC V8. Again, I'm glad SSC went on to make their own original engine, and eventually they went on to make a better looking car known as the Tuatara. However, that car kind of got stuck in production hell, and to be honest, even if it does make it to production, it's going to get outshined by Hennessey since he kind of has the spotlight for American hypercars right now. Anyways, it's all the supercars that I could find that use LS Corvette engines, but it won't be long before they start to use LT Corvette engines. And I wonder if half of these will even exist once the mid-engine Corvette comes out, because all the bone stock supercars on this list that just use bone stock LS engines, they more or less are just mid-engine Corvettes, let's be real. They're overpriced as hell too. So once an actual mid-engine Corvette comes out that's officially from Chevrolet that's not overpriced, I imagine some of these companies will die out, and to be fair, that's just the natural order of life, getting weeded out like that. I enjoyed this video, and I enjoyed this series so much because I just love fighting about all these obscure cars. If you found a lot of obscure cars that you've never heard of and enjoyed this video, make sure to smack the like button, and if you want more automotive content in the future, make sure to subscribe. Other than that, thank you for watching and see y'all next time. Blade Angel out.